Countdown. Hello, welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg. I've been kind of busy in the last few days, which is why you haven't seen much of me around. And it's just all kinds of stuff going on. Getting ready for Christmas, just work, that sort of thing. And today I had my booster shot actually yesterday. At this point, yesterday, and it's actually have a knot in my arm, and at least I don't feel like absolute rubbish, which that happens occasionally, and hopefully I don't get deformed for having a booster shot. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, anyway. There ain't going to be no vaxxer versus anti-vaxxer commentary, except that I hate the fact that they made a culture war out of it. Damn those culture wars. Yes, where do I begin? Let's see here. The high gas prices we are experiencing. I'm feeling it at the gas pump, and I was a young kid, in 1973, 74, when the oil embargo from OPEC, when that sort of situation happened and we had the energy crisis. I remember long gas lines and all of that, and in fact, looking back in hindsight, my dad had to sell his car, which was a 1965 Ford LTD, that he loved like you wouldn't believe. He wanted to keep that car forever, but it was a gas guzzler. And funny little story about that car is my dad bought it when he was in the Navy in Norfolk, Virginia, and he was riding to the officers club with a couple of British officers, and they were really impressed because the car was loaded up by 1965 standards, and they were telling my dad that they never drove anything this posh back home in England. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that little anomaly with you. I thought it was funny. So anyhow, gas prices, 1970s gas prices, and during the Bush-Cheney years, and now the gas prices this past year, and how partisan people seem to get when it comes to this sort of thing, especially from the Republican right. Because during when the gas prices when the energy crisis was more or less solved by the early 80s, gas prices sort of stabilized throughout much of the 1980s and the 1990s. Now, the gas prices started to creep up a little bit in the latter Clinton years. And I'm going to sound like a left-wing Alex Jones about that sort of thing. Because you have to think about it. I really do believe that when Bill Clinton, who I have no use for, but when Bill Clinton won the election in 1992, that the Republican Party had an entitlement mentality. That only Republicans are supposed to sit in that White House, not a Democrat, even though the Bill Clinton governed like a moderate Republican. That wasn't good enough for them. They really had an entitlement mentality, and they turned Bill Clinton into a central situation of what we would call a culture war, and my sentence didn't make any sense. I was just trying to find words that connect. They looked at him as the poster child, rather to say, for the culture war, and they did everything they could to try to punish him. They even tried to when they actually attempted and succeeded in impeaching him for for Bill Clinton getting his dick sucked by his intern. And the thing about it is, they're going to go and impeach him for that. But Reagan and Bush, who actually were trading arms for hostages and money with the Iranian government in secret while backing Saddam Hussein just to go and funnel money and resources down into toward right wing governments and right wing movements in Central America, and actually, go through with the drug trade and cause the crack epidemic here in the 1980s that we're still stuck with today, and Reagan and Bush got away with it. I mean, I don't know why Reagan is so damn revered when things are so obvious about his presidency. But I will save my energy for Ronald Reagan for another time. So it is important for me to do this. So let me do this. During the Bill Clinton presidency, as I said, the gas prices were stabilized until the latter 1990s, and it started to raise up a little bit. I think that the oil companies, which were tied in with people like the Bushes, the Bush family, they had every intention. Now, I don't think that the Bushes necessarily hated the Clintons, but their right wing base did, and I think that they had no problem with doing whatever it could take to go and make life tough for the economy through high gas prices. That the American populace would end up blaming Democrats for high gas prices. Now, George W. Bush defeated Al Gore by cheating in the 2000 election. And again, I don't have any use for Al Gore. So anybody who thinks I'm out there to defend Al Gore, I'll tell you how much I despise Al Gore. I despise Al Gore more than I despise Bill Clinton, because Al Gore chose the worst vice presidential candidate you could choose for a Democratic ticket at that time. That was Joe Lieberman, who is an absolute scum of the earth, as far as I'm concerned. Still a scum of the earth. And I voted third party, as I traditionally have done in the past. But the point is that George W. Bush threw his brother Gib in as the governor of Florida, and Kathleen Harris, who was the Secretary of State under the Jeb Bush gubernatorialship in Florida, and a Reagan-Bush PAC Supreme Court basically appointed George W. Bush as the president of the United States. So all the motherfuckers and MAGAs today, that they don't recognize Joe Biden as their president because they felt like only Donald Trump, he was ordained by God to rule the country forever and ever. Hey, I didn't recognize George W. Bush from 2008, 2001, 2009 either. So, let's see here. What happened with regard to George W. Bush is that the gas prices kind of remained the same, and I think that with the 9/11 situation, that was an opportunity to gouge people, and they were very sneaky on how they did it, because during each of the midterm elections, like 2002, when the gas prices were very high, they creeped it down just a little bit around October. So a very, very gullible public would think, well, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney know what they're doing. They got the gas prices down, so we don't have to worry about them libtards. And they go and vote for the Republicans. And by Christmas time, when the time when you're supposed to spend with your family and your loved ones and you're exchanging presents, even if you don't celebrate Christmas, is the time. It's just kind of a positive time and cheery time of year, and you get fucked over with the high gas prices. So, and that's what happened that kept on happening during the Bush years. 2004, again, the gas prices just creeped down just a little bit. Just a little bit, even though that the world was on fire and George W. Bush almost caused World War III to happen. A gullible public believed that stupid former governor of Texas. They used to call him Shrub, by the way. Jim Hightower and I had a little chat about that in 2000 when I met Jim Hightower. And gas prices started to creep down a little bit. And not only did Bush and Cheney won a second term, I'm going to say won the first term because Bush and Cheney didn't win the first time. So he was able to become president again, shall I say. When that happened, by Christmas time, gas prices were just raised sharply through the roof, and so things like Hurricane Katrina happened, and gas prices went through the roof again. I mean, it was like around here, it was like $2 something. It sharply went up to $3.50 around here, and when it was just like $2.20 previous. And I know $2.20 sounds like a pretty good deal today, but in 2005, $2.20 at the gas pump in North Carolina really did gouge a lot of consumers. So this kept happening over and over. And when the Democrats regained the House and the Senate in 2006, all of a sudden, when the gas prices went sharply through the roof. And thing about it is that the oil companies did this because they're partisan, and they did this to punish the Democrats. Well, here's the thing about that. The thing about it is that the gas prices were going through the roof, and you kept on hearing Republican partisans. And not that I believe in offshore drilling and all of that, but they would go and argue with me. Well, you see, what happened is that Bill Clinton signed an executive order to ban offshore drilling, and they won't allow us to go and do offshore drilling. And I'm like, well, if that's the problem, why doesn't George W. Bush go and sign an executive order to go and do away with the offshore drilling? And they had no answer for that, because inside their head it's like, well, we can't do that, because if we do that, it'll solve the problem, and we can't be partisan assholes and bitch at you liberals anymore. And that's pretty much what it was all about from my perspective. But that's not, the offshore drilling is not going to make gas prices go down. And think about it is, it just won't. And anyway, I think that, strangely enough, I think that when Barack Obama became president, I think that the oil companies kind of stabilized the gas prices not because they were good-hearted or politically correct, but I think that they were afraid of being called a smear racist if they go make life too tough on Obama. So I think that they were waiting for a Republican president to come in to bail them out and everything. And plus, there was a little more oil independence at that time. But anyway, the gas prices did stabilize under Obama and continue to stabilize under Trump. Now, why on earth did the gas prices get high again? Well, there's a reason for that. And let me do this here, and let me do this here, because I need to go and make some explanations. Let's see. All right. I don't want an echo, so I got to go and do this. And I got to go and do this. Okay, and I got to do this. Okay, and the thing about it is, George W. Bush, gas prices were high. They're high now under Joe Biden. Now, why is it high again all of a sudden? We still produce our own oil. I mean, we still, for the most part, do not rely on Saudi Arabia necessarily the way we used to. And we're pretty much energy independent more than ever. Why is it that the gas prices are high under Joe Biden? Well, there are some factors, and it's not because of the pipeline that Joe Biden by executive order prohibited earlier this year. And what happened was last year, well, almost 2 years ago at this point, when COVID reared its ugly head at our society and around the world, what happened was with the lockdowns and everything, gas prices kind of remain stabilized and started to go down in some areas. And so it kind of created a deflationary effect. Now, as society's moving back to normal, even though we still have the pandemic, we're trying to move back to normal. Well, and we can have a debate. We need to have a debate about how we can get back to normal without turning everything into a fucking culture war. And the thing about it is that, with society returning back to normal, people are out doing things that were normal, going to restaurants, going to shopping malls, taking trips places, and whether they're doing it with a mask or not, whether they're vaccinated or not, society is trying to adjust to what I would call a new normal. We also have a supply problem, and that's also causing the inflation to take place. But to hear the MAGA chuds and to hear Fox News giving poor middle class people money and paying them not to work caused the inflation. That did not happen. That was not the situation. And if, as far as I'm concerned, we needed to continue the stimulus checks. And unfortunately, we're not going to see any more stimulus checks ever again. And I'm surprised that we did to begin with, because our politicians from both parties are so shitty that I'm surprised that a little bit of common sense seemed to stream through their noggin, and they decided to give us just a little bit of money. Not enough, as far as I'm concerned. Not enough. And the fact that we went through this pandemic without even seriously discussing universal health care, that's a crime in itself. Honestly, if anybody should be in Nuremberg for crimes against humanity, are both Republicans and Democrats alike that would not even consider creating a Medicare for all program, not even a modest little public option. And so that's what it comes down to. But you also have to understand that there's a little bit of a foreign policy dilemma. And while I'm not blaming Donald Trump for COVID, and yeah, he could have done much better, but I'm not going to say he done like really terrible, more or less. But I'm going to say that I blame both parties. Donald Trump did some right things. He did a lot of wrong things. A lot of Democrats and Republicans who are elected did a lot of right things, and they did a lot of wrong things. There's enough blame to go around. But here's the thing. With regard to foreign policy, and let me do this here, because I need to illustrate. Okay. All right, let me do this here. Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist, I believe he's Turkish, if I remember correctly, critic of the Saudi Arabian government. The Saudi Arabian government decided to go and kill him. They murdered him. They brutally stabbed him and sawed off his parts and everything, and because he was calling on what was going on in places like Yemen and things like that, and the United States are continuing to be insistent on selling arms to Saudi Arabia. And that is where the source, the pulse of terrorism against the West from the Islamists, it's taking place. It's taking place from Saudi Arabia. It's not taking place from Syria. It's not taking place from Iran. Not that I'm saying that they're wonderful and benevolent, but it's not taking place from there. I have to keep stressing this out. Is taking place and being enabled indirectly by the U.S. We had 9/11 because of the U.S. Interference in Afghanistan in the 1980s. The United States indirectly caused the creation of Al Qaeda, and Reagan considered what would be the Taliban. He considered them equivalent to our founding fathers. That's what we're dealing with. So, as far as that's concerned, I think the Saudi Arabian government feels slighted, and they're affecting the oil production, which is also affecting the gas prices. Now, here's the thing about that: while the United States bullies Venezuela, and I don't understand, even if the United States, even if it's true that Nicolas Maduro is the new Fidel Castro of Latin America. Even if that was true, it isn't really true, but even if that was true, I would rather that the United States, if we have to buy foreign oil, to buy it from Venezuela, which has plenty of oil, than to buy it from Saudi Arabia. If you think about it, even if you're the most knee-jerk, right-wing, anti-communist person around, think about it this way. And maybe the right wing thinks shouldn't. It won't apply to the right wing because the right wing in this country think like the Islamists, because a lot of them are homophobic and all that. They might be okay with how Saudi Arabia treats women and treats the LGBTQ community and treat godless atheists and all of that. They just wish that Sharia in Saudi Arabia could be Christian fundamentalists instead of the brand of Islam that exists over there. But the point I'm trying to say is that I'm going to use a moderate person in the United States who are a little alarmed and a little triggered by how things are done in Venezuela. Think about it this way: in Venezuela, if you're LGBTQ, you're not going to be murdered or killed. I'm not going to say that being LGBTQ is an absolute 100% on the human rights level in Venezuela, but it's certainly not Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, being LGBTQ, will get you executed. Venezuela is a predominantly Roman Catholic country. If you're Protestant, or if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, if you're atheist, no big deal. You got freedom of religion in Venezuela. If you leave the Islamic faith for any reason in Saudi Arabia, you get executed. Saudi Arabia execute women activists who were fighting for the right for women to drive in Saudi Arabia. As far as feminism and gender equality, Venezuela is certainly light years ahead. Venezuela does not have the death penalty. Compare that to Saudi Arabia, they'll kill you. They'll almost execute you for jaywalking. You compare that to Venezuela. And strangely enough, in spite of what they said about the regime in Venezuela, their free speech laws and their freedom of the press is actually almost on par with the United States, and that's been a long-standing tradition in Venezuela. So I'm not going to say I want America to emulate every aspect of the government of Venezuela, but I do think that the United States needs to give up on this bullying. I am not going to lose sleep at night knowing that Venezuelan government exists. In fact, anything that is currently wrong in Venezuela could completely be reversed on the terms of the Venezuelan government. So if the U.S. would stop making life so terrible for the people of Venezuela. It's the United States that's causing the problems in Venezuela, the United States government, not the Venezuelan government itself. And any terrible thing that happens because of the Venezuelan government is in response to what the U.S. is doing. And that's what it comes right down to. So that's the way to look at it. So anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say right now. Trying to get make some sense of all these high gas prices and all of that. So right now on the chat line, we have Hot Retarded Chicks. Great seeing you again. Thank you. Yeah, I like this shirt myself. I haven't worn this shirt in a while, so I've worn this shirt in this commentary, in the past almost 2 years, but yeah, I don't wear it that often. Uh, let's see. Tulsi thinks the country is worth more than a few trillion. Well, the money is there. The money is always there. I tell people cut the military by 50%, get close all the bases around the world, and mind our own damn business, and we could save a lot of money right now. And even if we don't put it into social programs, I would be willing. I'd be willing to put it into the national debt, even though I would prefer for us to turn any savings from defense spending to for the needs of the people. If you want to go and pay the national debt, still less people will be dying than it would be with the American foreign policy as envisioned by the neocon consensus that's existent in both parties in Washington D.C. Let's see, Karma says Karma Yogi is every man for himself. It's very true. Means kind is very kind. We need colonializing, but whatever clone you want to be. Don't need a clone of myself. Yeah. But anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, comment anyway. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we are the muckrakers of our time. Feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And see, telecommunications like years ahead of you. Well, maybe so. And Hot Retarded Chicks, I love your YouTube channel. You're very creative person, and I always respect that. So I'm glad I'm subscribed to your channel, and maybe when I sign off here, I will encourage those. I'll put in the description box below your channel and highly recommend your channel because I think you could use a few more subscribers. So anyway, love the work you do and all of that. So until next time, I am Willie Bragg from the Willie Bragg Show, and is this that like I've said in the past, I'm going to emphasize this point. Class struggle yesterday, class struggle today, class struggle tomorrow, and class struggle indefinitely until we get that justice for all, that economic and social justice that we are in dire need of. Good night, all.